Okay, so welcome to today's webinar, An Introduction to AAC in the Classroom by Felicia Selan, speech language pathologist. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you. Yes, so I will get started and we will learn a little bit about AAC in the classroom. So the learning objectives, what you'll take away from this presentation, or I hope you take away from this presentation, is you'll be able to identify what AAC is. You'll identify populations who may use AAC. You'll be able to identify the various types of AAC and also understand the ways in which AAC can be implemented within the classroom or with students in certain settings that you work in. Before we get started, I'd like to just ask a question. What comes to mind when you think of the term AAC? The first thing that comes to your mind. You can use the chat, you can, take your mic off. Anyone? So someone said speech device. So that is probably what a majority of people think of when they hear the term abbreviation AAC is a device. So most likely technology of some sort. So what is AAC? So AAC stands for Augmentative Alternative Communication. So this is all forms of communication besides oral speech. So we use some form of AAC every day. Everybody does. We use gestures. So like facial expression, things like that, pointing. Also symbols, pictures, and writing are also forms of AAC. So to break it down, augmentative means to add to someone's speech. So it can be augmentative communication. So think of someone who may be deaf or hard of hearing. So they may have some speech, but this may add or make it easier for them to communicate with others or be understood by others. And then alternative is used instead of speech. So that's where the term augmentative and alternative communication comes from. So this can be permanent or temporary. So when we think of AAC, it can be used, someone may have a device forever, or they may use it temporary, or we'll talk a little bit more about the types of AAC devices or forms that, and who may use this. So on to the next slide, who may use AAC. So those are who are unable to use verbal speech. So someone, again, who is non-speaking may use some form of AAC, and then individuals whose speech is extremely difficult to understand. So again, someone, who may be deaf or hard of hearing, they may use some form of, they may have a device or a board or pictures that help others understand them easier. So some examples of individuals who may use AAC include those with congenital impairments. So these are present like in utero or from birth. So you think of those with cerebral palsy, intellectual impairments, Down syndrome, even autism. There has been some characteristics as in early infancy. And then those with acquired conditions. So these are acquired throughout their lifetime. So like a progressive neurodegenerative disorder. So like Parkinson's disease. So someone famous who you may know that has Parkinson's disease is Michael J. Fox. So also Muhammad Ali. And then ALS. So this is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. So that is, it progresses throughout a lifetime. It's not someone is born with this. So, and also Stephen Hawking. So you may have seen Stephen Hawking in his wheelchair. He used a speech generating device at a lot of his, presentations. So those are just some famous people that come to mind. And also, like with autism, you may think of in a classroom, those are non-speaking, non-verbal. We use the term non-speaking. That's also very common. So the types of AAC is broken down into two categories. There's unaided. So this is the first, and these don't require any tools or materials. So this is something that people may not think of using AAC because they think of the speech generating device or having something tangible that they have to press or look at pictures. So using gestures, vocalizations, body language, facial expressions, these are all unaided. We do not have a tool to carry around that we use to use these forms. So also American Sign Language and then finger spelling. These are just the ones that are unaided. And then we have aided AAC. So when we have aided AAC, this is where some type of physical object or a device is used. So this is the more common, this is what we think of. So this would be symbols, pictures, communication boards, communication binders or books, or a device of some sort. So these are divided into categories. So there are 3 categories, and they're low tech, mid tech, and high tech. So low tech, it's kind of self-explanatory. There's really it doesn't require a battery, or it's not technology. So this would be printed materials. So an example, I'm not sure if you can see this, I'll show a picture, but so it would be like a communication board. So that doesn't require any batteries. We don't have to turn anything on. It's not something you have to charge. These are just symbols, pictures, objects, things like that. Mid-tech, this is not a complex device, so it's a static display, but it can provide a voice message when a symbol is pressed. And I will show you some images of what these look like. So this is usually battery powered. It's something that you can record on. So you've probably heard of, I'm not sure, like a button that you can record, and it will play back the word, or the phrase that you say. And this isn't necessarily high tech yet. So we're still in that mid tech area. And then high tech is the complex electronic device that a majority of people in the classrooms or outside have seen and heard of as to use AAC, which would be a speech generating device. So this is your iPads, the tablet of some sort. There are different companies that have this, that have, that are the more complex, that have that screen with all of those grids and pictures and phrases and words on it. And that is the highest, that's high tech. So some examples of low tech. So this would be PECs, which also a majority of people maybe in the classroom or others have used or heard of. So this is the picture exchange communication system. So this is where, there are different phases to go through, and the child and the communicator, the student may bring a picture and give of what they want to their communication partner to express their wants and needs, and it has 6 different phases to go through. Communication boards, this can be from a picture board with 1 or 2 pictures, like yes or no. This can range to a large communication board that looks like the front of like a tablet. So it looks like the main page of those high tech. You can even print off a communication board that mirrors what a high tech device would look like, but it's tangible. It can be laminated, and you would just point at the pictures, but it doesn't, provide any verbal output. And then visual schedules are also a form of, a low tech, and a lot of students in the classroom benefit from using a visual schedule. Mid-tech examples, this would be that middle area between, it's not no technology because there's usually a battery involved of some sort, and then it's not high tech because it's not that complex iPad speech generating device. But a Big Mac, it's not the hamburger, it is a button. So it looks like a buzzer, and you push it, You can record on it. You can, it can say simple things such as just yes, no. You can record I want more, like a phrase. You can have more than one. There are different sizes to accommodate those who, it's not necessarily just one size fits all. There's a Go Talk, which is, it's like a simple board. It slides in. You can change the pictures and the words. So it's like a grid of, 4 or 6, and you can, have the main core words like I, or want, like, more, go, yes, no, and you can interchange the pictures and the words. So you just have to keep recording over, everything, and it only holds, 6 to 8 words. It doesn't go above that. So those are just some examples, and I will show you a picture in a second. The high-tech examples, again, this is the tablet. So, most kids have an iPad, and then you download the app. So these are just the names. There's a ton of them. Proloquo to go is a common one. People may have heard of touch chat, and then LAMP. Those are the most commonly used with students I've seen, and worked with in the classrooms. And this is, that grid. They can have 10 pictures, or they can have 60 on the main screen. And then you have different pages to touch, and it flips and it goes back and forth. It's pretty advanced. And, but that is the most commonly seen, in schools. Computers, you can use a computer that has, some of these apps on it. And then there's also eye gaze devices. So the Mega B is also an eye gaze device. These are pretty neat for those who, do not have the motor ability to press, touch, or even speak. This tracks eye movements. So there would be a screen, like if a child's in a wheelchair, there's a screen, and it has the computer or the tablet screen, and it actually, the child would look, and it tracks their eye movements that's like a pointer, and that's their mouse, and it transmits everything into their speech, which is pretty neat. So I'm going to show you a picture of kind of a continuum of from low tech, mid tech to high tech, just so you have an idea of what these look like. Let's see. Okay, can everybody see this picture on the right hand? Well, it might be your left hand side of the screen. You can see the low tech, which would be those communication boards. These don't have any verbal output. These are modeled, or they're just touched, pointed at, touched with an object, on a piece of paper, on hard paper, cardboard, whatever you want to make it on. The communication books, the PECs, those are all just the pictures. And then we go to the mid-tech, which are those buttons that I was explaining, which are also, like, they can be called a Big Mac. You can just call them a, speech button. And these you can record over. There's, a little switch at the bottom, but you do, again, have to monitor the batteries, make sure, it's working. You have, every time you want to introduce a new word or a phrase, you have to remember to record over it. And you can have, like I said, more than one. So it's still, they're pretty neat. And then this right here, this green thing with the grid, the little pictures on it, these slide out. This is called a Go Talk, or simple leveled speech generating devices. It's not that high tech, but it is, again, recorded. You can have more than one, word, symbol, and it's kind of introducing that next step of going to this higher communication to the tablet with those applications that I was talking about. And then we have the eye gaze device, which is the tablet, but it's not, nobody's touching that. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can get back to this. Okay. Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Let's see. Okay. All right. So some benefits of AAC. So why introduce it? Why, what are the benefits of it? this gives a voice to everyone. So that's extremely important to me as a speech language pathologist. And then also I know to, everybody working with these, students and people that, it gives them a voice. They don't just have to sit there and wait or use groans. They have, a way now to even, be heard on, whether it's a picture using that high-tech, speech generating device. It helps establish a means of independence for the user. So they can carry their book around, they can have their speech generating device, they can bring it everywhere with them, and to the store, to the restaurant, they can order their own food, they can make choices in the lunchroom, talk with others, and and that really gives them that independence, and they can just like everybody else. It supports development of language skills and comprehension. So every time on those grids there, you can add new pictures, which is increasing their expressive vocabulary. They're starting to follow directions, like point to the porcupine. So they're learning, to follow their receptive communication, following directions, they're comprehending, they can answer WH questions with their communication device or board. So it's really, it has so many benefits. It also supports and promotes social skills. So again, that kind of goes with that means of independence and giving them a voice. They can, greet people, they can tell them their likes or their dislikes, they can agree, they can have a debate with somebody, their peers, their teachers. So it's really neat. It also gives the user a sense of inclusion as they feel they're being heard, and then it also helps to increase opportunity for the community involvement and employment. So those are all really great things, go AAC. So it's an amazing thing. So how do we use it in the classroom? So I just made some general little activities that you could work on and incorporate this in the classroom if you're, if a child's new with the AAC device, or you're just starting out with pictures, there's ample opportunities to use this in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So this goes with that social aspect. This is probably one of the first things that you could teach or to model is arrival and departure. So using single words or phrases to greet others, you can, and then also you can use gestures. So usually it's a wave or a smile if you're saying hi or bye. But you can use the speech generating device if the child, is learning hi and bye. They can start, that's their voice. So you can model pushing hi or bye or how are you, to ask questions to others or to someone greeting them. And then you can use words or phrases to request actions. So if they need help, taking their backpack off, they can say help, please, or, you can model different things right as soon as they walk in the classroom, and then also at departure. That's a really great time to model and to implement AAC. Literature activities. So during reading, carpet time in the class, you can, the student can use a device to request a book, to turn a page, or ask for information to be repeated if they didn't understand something, and some core words. So when you're modeling AAC or, using it in the classroom, you can choose a few of those main words like simple, open, turn, all done, or close to use repeatedly so that the child is understanding what the word means. And then also they have opportunities to use that several times. So, they want you to open the book and then turn page. So each time the page is going to turn 5 times in the story, they get to say turn each time. And and then they can start to build on that. Instead of just turn, now they can say turn again, or they can start to expand their utterances. They can also use an eye gaze to identify common vocabulary. So again, not just touching the device, the student that may have an eye gaze, you may ask them a question and they can look at their device on their screen and answer that, identify that vocabulary, or answer a question. And then again, the teacher can model core words or vocabulary throughout the story. So each time you see, if you're in this, if it's a new word, they can just constantly show the child where that is on their device, or show a picture or on the communication board. You can use AAC in math. So you can use devices to solve math problems. There's on those high tech, there's a lot of different, there's pages that have numbers, math symbols, everything from talking about same, different, more, less, short, long. When you're talking about like word problems and describing objects in the room. So there's various ways to use AAC in math. And then in lunch, this is a great and a little bit more fun opportunity for the kiddos to use AAC is, to ask for what they want to order. So you could have the student that has a speech generating device, a voice output, they can say, I want pizza, I want milk. So it's really, again, fostering that independence. And then, showing them during lunch how to, you could be modeling that for them. And they can, have, make comments with their friends. If they're sitting next to their friends, I like that. I don't like milk. I don't like hamburgers. And they can have that, conversation with their peers during lunch. Recess and PE, those are really great times to incorporate AAC. So some core words you could model would be stop, help, jump, run, go, my turn, your turn, ball. These are common. And so if a student could have picture symbols on, more of like a necklace or kind of like a key ring or something that keeps it organized, and they can have pictures of, stop, help, go, and they can, use that during recess or during PE to ask for things or, to comment with peers and staff. And then also for a speech, if a student is using a speech generating device, they can participate in games or direct games such as Simon Says. So they could have, all the body parts on their page and, say Simon Says, touch, nose. And so they can kind of lead a little game or activity like that, which is really neat. Or, again, just participate by, still saying, being part of that. And then art, students can use their communication board or voice output to request colors, markers, crayons, all of the, art activities and materials you may need. And then use that to describe, help their descriptive language skills. Like, I made a blue duck, they can start to expand. Instead of just saying blue, they can describe what they're drawing or what they're making. So those are just some ways in which this can be implemented throughout different classes during the school day. So in order for a student to learn how to use AAC, because we can see there are many different types and it can be overwhelming for the student, for the teacher, for anybody, working with this child or communicating with this child. The way that they learn is through exposure and modeling from the communication partner, which is you. So if you're a teacher in the classroom or someone working with this child or a parent, modeling. So just what it sounds like, you would point to or activate a symbol on the AAC system as you speak so that the students can experience and use their AAC system to communicate effectively. So as you are talking to them, you can point to, if you say, I like pizza, you would show them as you're saying it out loud and pointing so that they're watching, they're learning, they're hearing, all of their senses are stimulated so that they're really grasping, okay, I remember where I was on the screen, where like is on the screen or on the communication board. This helps them learn faster. It shows them that their AAC system is a valid and valued communication method. It helps you as a communication partner, us as a communication partner, slow down our speech and use language at the student's level. So instead of telling a student, okay, go to the first page now in the left-hand corner, press I, that's overwhelming for them. So you would just show them the screen, simple, and then touch and show them simple, phrases or words so that they're really grasping it. And it adds a visual versus relying on just listening. So they have that picture of in front of them or their screen, and then they have you pointing, touching, instead of just saying, okay, go to your first screen and press I like pizza. And they may not, they don't know where that to begin. So modeling is key. And these are some strategies, some ways to what you should be doing when working with AAC devices or communication boards, picture symbols. That aided language input is the modeling. So the communicator provides a model for communication with the use of AAC. That is exactly, you are modeling and talking, showing the child how to use it during a lesson, during lunch, during PE. And you don't have to model every single button, every word you say, like, conjunctions and a and is and all of that, just really the core words. So the ball is going fast. So you could just show more ball, you could do go and then fast. So they're really grasping what you're modeling or saying. Least to most prompting, you would begin with less invasive prompts. So just gesture towards, the AAC device, to more invasive. So you could also do hand over hand. So sometimes we will show if the child really isn't grasping where any of the pictures are, or you could even show them, using a pointer. You could just, show them where the symbols are located. And then using visual aids when you're talking, using AAC in the classroom, include pictures and 3D objects. You can even use, show them an object of what, even if they see a symbol of a pyramid, they may not know. You could even have like a 3D, something that they can touch and look at, and then that may make a bigger connection. When you're doing activities with a child, or even at lunch, or really any part of the day, and you want them to use their AAC device, pictures, communication board, offer 2 choices. So this goes for anybody. We like choices. We like to be offered choices. They should be motivating. They could include items or activities. So, do you want to color or to read? So you show them, and then they can say on their device, I want book, or I want markers, and kind of give them those choices, because that's kind of goes into this next one where you're making high probability requests. This is something that you're asking them to do that's motivating, that they will likely respond to. So if it's 2 choices, do you want to do, writing or math, and they don't like either of those, and they don't like either of those, they probably won't respond, or they're going to, just either play with their device, not really listen. So really, when you're starting out, once you've mastered that, the student is using their device, correctly, and they really understand it, you understand it, you can kind of work on those low probability requests, getting them to do things they may not really enjoy, but eventually they will do. So lastly, remember, AAC systems should always be present at all times. I know this happens a lot in the classroom, and other areas of the school. They're not present at all times. So sometimes the device is put away after the child is leaving the class to go to lunch or something of that sort. But really, that is their voice. That's how they communicate. So it should be with them, present, available to them at all times, consistently organized. So these get overwhelming, especially those high-tech devices, and sometimes with those PECs and picture books that have Velcro, sometimes they get all scattered. So if you have a question, it's good to ask, a speech language pathologist, or, someone that has, worked with that device, or that those picture symbols, to organize them so that it's easier for the student to use, and the teachers. Continuously modeled. So again, Modeling is key for the student to understand how to use this correctly and to expand on their language skills. It should be recognized as the user's voice. Again, this is their voice. If you remove the picture, the speech generating device, that's taken away from them. And it should be usable across a variety of contexts and settings. So again, the device, it shouldn't just be programmed to be used only in reading or only in math. There's a variety of different, like I said, vocabulary, words, pictures, phrases. You can use this from, at home to PE to after school. So it should be used, it should be able to be used everywhere. Okay, and here are my references. And that is my presentation. Are there any questions?